Before I was a Christian, I was something else entirely. I grew up in a world where God was not the answer. He was not even the question. My mother raised me in a new age. Crystals, energy, spirits, manifestation, things that sounded beautiful on the surface, and I believed all of it. What I didn't know, what nobody told me, is that the enemy does not always come looking scary. Sometimes he comes looking like light. I want to take you back to where this story starts, because I think a lot of you watching this, you know this word I'm talking about. Maybe you're in it right now, or maybe you grew up in it like I did. My mother, she loved me. I want to say that first. She was doing what she believed in. She was searching for something real, something spiritual, something bigger than herself. And she brought me into that search with her. I remember when I was 12 or maybe 13 years old, every morning before school, I would wake up and my body would just shake, spasm. I could not control. I would be standing in the kitchen trying to make my breakfast, and I would drop things, plates, mugs. I could not stop it. My mother looked at me and she didn't think maybe she needs a doctor. She thought there is a spirit inside her. So she took me to someone's house, a healer, and I remember laying down on this table, and there was a man moving his hands over my body just like this, never touching me but hovering. And there was spiritual music playing, and this lasted maybe 20-30 minutes. She took me back 5 times. 5 times. I laid on that table, and I was 12 years old, and I didn't question it, because when your mother tells you something is true, you believe her. She also had people read my future, who I would marry, what my children would look like, what my life would be. None of it happened. Not a single thing. Here's what actually happened. Years later, I'm 21 years old, married, sitting in the passenger seat of my husband's car. On a Sunday, we are driving to his parents' house for lunch, and I lose consciousness, just like that. I had a seizure, so I wake up and everything has changed. They run tests, they give me a diagnosis, epilepsy. I was not possessed. I never was. I was just a little girl with a medical condition that nobody caught, because the people around me were looking for spirits instead of doctors. And I think about that 12 years old version of me laying on that table 5 times, believing something was wrong with her soul, when all along it was just her brain. That's what happens when you give spiritual authority to people who don't know the one true God. I need to talk about something now that I have never said out loud publicly. I was raped. I'm going to say it again because I spent years not being able to say it at all. I was raped. I was around 12 years old. My brain has done what brains do when something is too much to hold. It kept some of it in the dark. I don't remember every detail, and I've learned that that's not weakness, that's survival. What I do remember is that it was someone my mother trusted, her boyfriend. A 35 years old man. in a home where I was supposed to be safe. After it happened, I could not say it out loud. I could not look at my mother and form the words. I don't think my mouth even knew how. So I wrote it on a sticky note, a 12 years old girl writing the worst thing that ever happened to her on a sticky note. And I remember it was a yellow sticky note, because that was the only way she knew how to ask for help. I left it on the coffee table, my mother picked it up, she read it, and she threw it in the bin. And we never spoke about it again. Not for 8 years. I grew up, I became a military police officer, which I think now was not a coincidence. Something in me needed to protect people the way nobody had protected me. I moved away for work, far from home, and one day my mother called me. We were talking about normal things, how I was settling in, how life was going, and then out of nowhere she said, "I believed you about what happened when you were 12, and I'm sorry, I didn't do anything." 8 years that little girl waited to be believed. I want to say something to every woman watching this who wrote something on a sticky note, maybe not literally, but in some way, and had it thrown away. You were believed in heaven. Even you were not believed in here on earth. I didn't know that yet, but I carried it anyway into every relationship, every choice, every version of myself that came after. Unconsciously, quietly, the way ones do when nobody helps heal them. It started when I was 19. I had moved away from home from the first time in my life. I had an extraordinary job. I was military police officer. From the outside, I looked like someone who had it together. But for the first time in my life, I was alone with myself. And I didn't know what to do with that. So every evening after work, I would come home and open a bottle of wine. I told myself I was relaxing. I was not relaxing. I was trying to disappear. The alcohol, the weed, they didn't fix anything. They just turned the volume down on wounds I didn't know how to name yet. The little girl on that table, the sticky note nobody answered, the broken pieces I would been carrying since I was 12, I was in 1,000 pieces. And I was trying to hold them together with wine. Then at 21, I met the man who would become my husband, and for a moment, it felt like being saved. Someone loved me, really loved me, and I loved him. And for a little while, that was almost enough, almost, because nothing underneath had healed. I still didn't like myself. I still didn't know who I was without the pain. So little by little, the drinking came back. I quit my job to go back to school. I was surrounded by people younger than me, and I did what broken people do when they find others who are not watching. I disappeared into it. Weed after class, alcohol at night, and at home. I was the perfect wife. That double life is exhausting in a way I can't fully explain. being one person in the light and another person in the dark, my husband started to notice. Every dinner with friends, I would end the night fully drunk, blackouts, dramas, saying things I could not remember, hurting the people who loved me most, and the worst part, I never wanted to hurt anyone. I was just hurting so much myself that it was spilling out onto everything. There was a point where I decided I didn't want to be here anymore. I'm going to say that plenty because I think someone watching this needs to hear it said plenty. I tried to end my life and I'm still here, which means God had already decided something about me. Even before I knew his name, from 19 to 26, that was my life. That cycle, that pattern, trying to get better, falling back down, trying to hold it together, falling apart, and then 2020. One morning, I woke up and I felt something I had never felt before. A pull, not a voice, not a vision, just a pull toward a church. I looked one up online, found the nearest one, and I walked in. And I loved it. I kept going for a few months, and then I met someone, a man who was not a Christian, and I walked away from that door. I was not ready yet. God was knocking, but I was not ready to open it. And he waited. That's what I know. Now that I didn't know then, he waited. I need to go back to when I was 15. Nobody had taught me about my body, about relationships, about what intimacy meant or what it could cost. I was 15 and I didn't know, and so it happened with a boy who didn't love me, who never even knew. 2 weeks after I found out I was pregnant, I told my mother. My best friend had come with me to the hospital for the test. He waited at the door while I went inside and told her. She was vacuuming. She stopped, she listened, and then she went back to vacuuming. No, I'm sorry. No, I love you. No, we'll figure this out together. Just the vacuum. So I did what I had learned to do by then. I handled it alone. I went to the hospital, I took the pill, and a few hours later, they sent me home. I was 15 years old. I went home by myself and I lost my baby alone. I don't have softer words for what that was. I've tried to find them. I've decided the truth is better. And afterwards, I did what 15 years old do when there is no one to help them carry something that's heavy. I put it in a box, I closed the lid, I moved on, but boxes don't stay closed forever. Years later, it came back, hit me in a way I was not prepared for. I understand now that some of the wine, some of the weed, some of the trying to disappear was me trying to keep that box closed. I want to say something directly to the women watching this who have been here, who have carried this, maybe for years, maybe for decades, maybe in complete silence. Your baby was loved by God, and so were you. In that hospital, in that house, alone at 15, you were never actually alone. You just could not feel him yet. And the reason it ended, I needed to be honest about this, was me. Not because I didn't love him, but because I was so broken that loving someone was not enough to stop me from hurting them. My behavior, my addiction, my wounds that I had never let anyone help me carry. I was making him suffer, and I knew it. I could not stop. That's one of the most paralyzing feelings a human being can have. Watching yourself hurt someone you love and being completely unable to help yourself. I was ashamed. I was sorry every single day, but sorry does not heal what hasn't been healed. The day he asked me if I was okay with ending the marriage, I said yes, because we were not happy. Because I knew it was true, but I said it the way you say things when you're numb, when you've been carrying so much for so long that even loss doesn't fully land anymore. 4 years, and I walked away and I didn't fully feel it. Not yet. What I did feel was the silence, alone again. Just me and my broken pieces and the bottle I kept reaching for. And then the year everything fell apart for me and for the whole world, my marriage was over. I was lost, I was by myself, and one morning I woke up and God knocked on my door, not loudly, not with thunder or lighting, just a knock, a pull toward a church I had never been to, and this time I opened the door. That's where part 1 ends, because what happened next, what God did with all of these broken pieces, that's part 2. If you made it this far, thank you. I know that was not easy to sit with. It was not easy to say out loud either. But if any part of this story felt like yours, I need you to know something. You're not too broken, you're not too far, you're not too much. You are exactly who God comes looking for. So subscribe so you don't miss part 2. Drop a comment below. I read every single one. And if you can't write what you're carrying, just write me. I will know. I'll see you there.